Hi, friends. My name is Kathy Svitek, and I am a friend of Prague Christian Fellowship. I was involved and knew people who are currently involved in Prague Christian Fellowship many years ago, back in the day, nearly 20 years ago. I lived in Prague from 1990 up through the beginning of the 21st century. My two older children were born in Prague, and I know the Mullins really well, and I know other Christians who have been in town for a long, long time. I wanted to share a short story with all of you and to ask for your help potentially and for your prayers for something that I'm working on right now. My backstory is that when I was in college here in the States, I met and married my college sweetheart who had immigrated from Czechoslovakia with his family back when he was a teenager. And in 1990, he graduated. And what could we do other than go to Prague at that time? And I became an English teacher, and he went from strength to strength in his business career. We moved subsequently to Brazil, and very unfortunately, the marriage ended. It was always a rather difficult marriage. But what I wanted to share with you was the crazy connections that take place with friends who know one another and pray for one another. Back when I was in Prague, there was a beautiful German lady who was a trained Christian counselor who helped me a great deal at that time. Her husband was a executive with Volkswagen, who of course had bought Skoda, and that was the reason they were in Prague. She was an amazing contribution to the Christian community. She was very well educated, extremely empathetic, and a beautiful lady. Fast forward, and I found myself in Brazil having a very traumatizing moment because we had been robbed at gunpoint. We had also just separated. The marriage was grinding to a halt, and here we had been robbed, and the company told my former spouse that we should go ahead and find any accommodation. It didn't matter the cost. And I looked at a number of options, and I, at the time, was desperate to have my marriage restored, and I was looking for the kind of home that would be the right one for our needs, that would make my former spouse comfortable so he'd come home and be happy. And one after the other ended up not working out. But one of the homes that we looked at, and I walked through that house, I prayed as I went through that house. I learned later was the home. In fact, we heard when we were negotiating with the owner, she said, well, if you're going to take it, you're going to need to decide immediately, because I have already another possibility. It is a German man who is here with his automotive company. Can you believe that that man was my dear friend's husband? And he was coming to Brazil, not with my friend. Instead, he was coming to Brazil with his mistress, who also worked for the company. That was where they had met. The company had got his mistress a job as well in Brazil, and they were going to come and live in that house. And they ended up, in fact, renting that house. And I had the possibility of actually delivering something that I had for my friend, for her husband to give to her. We actually ended up having a rendezvous where I gave him something that I had as a gift for her, and I ended up writing to him. And can you imagine God arranging something more unbelievable? Now, I don't know where my dear friend is today. I believe that her husband did leave the marriage. I believe he had a baby with this new lady. But nevertheless, God gave him an opportunity in having me show up, of all people, somebody who she and I had not even been in touch during the years that we were living in Brazil. It's the craziest story. But the reason I'm contacting you or putting this on your Facebook page is that I have launched a new program, and I recently became accredited as a women's financial transitions coach. And initially, I thought that that would take the work that I was going to do was going to be in America. I'm a licensed financial professional now in the States. And that was what I thought. For 12 years, I've lived here in the States. For 12 years, I've been interacting mostly with Americans and so on. And can you believe that when I launched this program, the first 3 people who expressed interest were all foreigners, non-Americans living in other countries. And I couldn't believe it. It's just so strange to me, but it does make sense. I've been through it. I was married to a man from one culture. We got a divorce while living in another place. And there are lots and lots of stresses on families when that is the case. And so I'm asking you for prayer. And I'm also asking you, if you know of a family, doesn't need to be a Christian family, if you know of a woman who is going through it right now, maybe she is someone living in Prague, maybe she used to live in Prague. I don't know. Maybe you know her from somewhere else. But she's an international lady. She could be an American living somewhere else, married to someone else, or what have you. Somebody with those elements who might be looking for support. I'm going to be launching a program in February called Happily Even After 90 Days to Survive Divorce and Build a New Life. And I see that I'm meant to be doing this for internationals. So thank you. Thank you for letting me share. God bless you all. And I look forward to coming to Prague to visit sometime soon.